Right now, the NBA is on hold, and this could not have come at a worse time because, as we all know, the playoffs were just around the corner, and at this current moment, we don't know when basketball is going to come back or if it's going to come back at all this season. So, in order to provide a little entertainment into your life and honestly into my life as well, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I simmed the rest of the NBA season 100 times and kept track of everything. So, what's up, guys? Mike here. And yes, today we are going to look at the question, what if the rest of the NBA season was simmed 100 times? In this video, we are going to cover what happens during the regular season, what happened with the awards, and of course, we are going to take a deep dive into the playoffs and who wins the NBA championship. Before we get started though, I do want to say I am bringing the second channel back. So right now, my first second channel video in a while is live. It is titled, What If the Top 20 Players in the NBA All Had Career-Ending Injuries? Trust me, things got insane in that version of the NBA. Things were even crazier than I thought they were going to be. I'm going to put the link in the description. Make sure to click the link and watch that video after this video is over. Thank you guys for all the support, and for now, let's jump into what would happen if the NBA was simmed 100 times. So to begin things off here, we are going to take a look at how each team performed in the regular season. And because it's impossible for all 30 teams to fit on one chart, we're first going to look at the East and then the West. So looking at the East, you can see that each team is broken down by average wins, average seed, highest possible seed, lowest possible seed, highest win total, and lowest win total. Now, at any time in this video, when one of these charts come up, I would suggest to pause so you can really see what each team did. With that said, the highest number of games a team won in these 100 simulations were the Milwaukee Bucks when they won 70 games in simulation number 76. Milwaukee also did not win less than 58 games, which is very impressive. They were very consistent throughout these 100 sims. Meanwhile, the Raptors averaged close to 60 wins per season, which improbably would be more than the 58 wins they had in 2019. This is of course impressive because in 2019, the Raptors ended up winning the NBA championship, and so once we get to the playoff portion in this video, we're gonna see if the Raptors have what it takes to win a few more titles in these 100 simulations. Moving on, the addition of Kemba Walker put the Celtics at an average win total of 56 wins, which is about 7 higher than they had in 2019. Also, something that no one would have predicted before this season took place, the Miami Heat would actually finish with a higher average seed than the Philadelphia 76ers, proving to me at least that there is something wrong with the Philadelphia 76ers core, so we might be seeing changes come this summer. Also noteworthy here are the Brooklyn Nets finishing with the 8th seed the majority of the time. The Nets, without Kyrie and Kevin Durant, were not picked by many people to make the playoffs this year, but despite this, they have more than surpassed their expectations. As for the Western Conference, the Lakers would be clear top dogs here, as they would finish with the highest average wins with around 64, and not once did they finish below the 2nd seed. The other team in Los Angeles was also dominant, as the Clippers secured an average win total of 58.64, and in the playoffs, as you are about to see, these two Los Angeles teams would certainly have quite a few crazy series. Meanwhile, looking at the rest of the West, Dallas, OKC, Houston, Denver, and Utah all finished within 4 wins of each other. And for the 8th seed race that was occurring when the season was suspended, among Memphis, Portland, New Orleans, Sacramento, and San Antonio, Memphis would finish with the highest average win total at about 40. However, it was Portland who would actually finish with the highest average seed number, as the Blazers would have an average seed finish of 9.3 compared to Memphis's 9.5. With all of this said, moving on, we are now going to look at the awards. Ja Morant was the unanimous Rookie of the Year in these 100 simulations, and in fact, Ja actually won Rookie of the Year all 100 times. That is crazy, and certainly would not be the case if Zion played the entire season, but because Zion missed so many games and Ja often led his team to the playoffs, it does make sense that Ja would be Rookie of the Year. Looking at the MVP, LeBron did sneak in a couple of MVP wins, but Giannis had the clear advantage with 86 total wins. They were the only two people to win the MVP. As for the other awards, in the 100 sims, Kawhi Leonard would win the Defensive Player of the Year award 86 times, while Anthony Davis would take it home 10 times, and Giannis would win 4 times. Meanwhile, the 6th Man of the Year race was between 2 players, and Montrezl Harrell would win 74 times, and Dennis Schroeder would win 26. As for the Most Improved Player, Bam would win 98 out of 100 times, and Terry Rozier randomly won twice. And finishing up the main awards here, Mike Budenholzer was the clear choice for Coach of the Year with 82 wins, but Frank Vogel did have 12 and Nick Nurse did have 6. The results of these awards are definitely interesting, but I think the All-NBA teams are even more interesting because for the All-NBA first team, we find that Luka Doncic, James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James, and Nikola Jokic were all named first team All-NBA for all 100 sims. Yes, every single season, the All-NBA first team was the same, which is insane. Honestly, I would expect some type of variety, but we did not get that on the first team. On the second and third teams, though, that is a different story. Now, the typical All-NBA second team consisted of Anthony Davis, Trae Young, Kawhi Leonard, Damian Lillard, and Bam. Anthony Davis would actually be named All-NBA second team every single simulation as well, and Trae Young would be named second team 94 out of 100 times. It was definitely the center position that had the most variety here, as Andre Drummond made the All-NBA second team 34 times, while Joel Embiid made it 12. Pascal Siakam, DeMar DeRozan, and Bradley Beal also made the second team in different simulations, but most of the time those players were named to the third team. Now, the man who made the All-NBA third team the most is somewhat surprising because Bradley Beal did not make the All-Star team and his team certainly did not make the playoffs, but still, he was rewarded and is the main member of the third team. As for the rest of the guys that made the third team, here is the list with the amount of times they made it. At this point though, let's get into the most interesting part of this video, the playoffs and the NBA championships. Because overall, here is an overview of how teams fared in the playoffs. As you can see in the Eastern Conference, 4 different teams would reach the NBA Finals at different points. One of these teams would not be the Miami Heat, who did make some big trade deadline moves to try and contend, but in these 100 simulations, they would only make the conference finals a total of 6 times. So the Bucks, Celtics, Raptors, and Sixers would be the only teams to reach the finals from the East. But looking at the conference finals, that to me is where things get the most interesting because we see the Orlando Magic actually made the Eastern Conference Finals twice. Something that, unless there were some injuries, I can definitely not see happening in real life. Meanwhile, in the Western Conference, we had a lot more shocking playoff runs, as although the Lakers and Clippers would make the NBA Finals combined in 80% of the simulations, there were definitely some surprises. And no team surprised more than the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic would put up literal video game numbers in some of these simulations, and Dallas somehow won 10 championships. We are going to deep dive a bit further into some of these shocking playoff runs a little later. For now though, wrapping up the West, I would say the most disappointing team in the playoffs was the Denver Nuggets, a team that would end up losing in the first round of the playoffs more than half the time, and they also only reached the conference finals 14 times, which was less than both the Houston Rockets and of course the Mavericks. With that said, the most shocking playoff run has to be that in one simulation, the Sacramento Kings reached the NBA Finals. That would be absolutely insane as they missed the playoffs 88 out of 100 times. But you know, when you simulate the NBA season 100 times, sometimes crazy things are bound to happen. And finally, what we've all been waiting for are the total championships won. As you can see, the city of Los Angeles would account for 52% of the total championships won, as the Lakers and the Clippers took home most of the hardware in these 100 sims. And considering that the Bucks did have the best record in the NBA at the time the season was suspended and had the best average record in these sims, you can only imagine that Milwaukee Bucks fans would certainly be disappointed with only winning 12 out of 100 championships, especially when you consider the fact that the 76ers tied them for the same amount of titles won. Because in these simulations, it appears that despite their regular season problems, Philly was able to shock the NBA quite a few times and make some big time runs. And at this point in the video, guys, we are now going to switch gears and talk about storylines. Because as you can imagine, in 100 simulations, some crazy things occurred. And so let's start out with the Toronto Raptors. Now, the Raptors were among the surprises here, as they would repeat as NBA champions in 8 different simulations, despite now not having Kawhi Leonard. And interestingly enough, in 3 of these simulations, the Raptors would face their former superstar, and Kawhi would actually end up winning all 3 of his final matchups against the Raptors. And yes, I know, even though he left, Raptors fans still love Kawhi, but the feeling there might change if he beat them in the NBA Finals. Continuing on, let's now talk about the fact that the Sacramento Kings made the NBA Finals. Because yes, you heard that correctly, in one simulation, the Sacramento Kings, after not having made the playoffs for more than 10 seasons in real life, would make the NBA Finals as the 8th seed in simulation number 42. And in this simulation, yes, the Kings would play the Lakers, and yes, they would get revenge for their 2002 Western Conference Finals loss. Because as you can see, the Lakers would win the first 2 games, Anthony Davis would actually score 46 points in game 1, and everything seemed normal. Except the Kings were not done yet, as they would win game 3 109-99 and game 4 145-133 behind 17 points and 15 assists from De'Aaron Fox. It would also be De'Aaron Fox who would help Sacramento shock the world, as they would end up winning games 5 and 6 with Fox putting up a near triple-double average to help send LeBron and AD home. The Kings would then sweep the Thunder the next round, and then in the Western Conference Finals, during game 7 against the Denver Nuggets, the score would be tied 107-107 when De'Aaron Fox was fouled on a layup attempt by Gary Harris as time expired. Fox would miss the first free throw, but then make the second, and the Kings made the finals. From there, they would lose in 6 games to the Sixers, as in game 6, Joel Embiid would put the Kings away with 37 points, 15 rebounds, and 11 blocks. And speaking of Joel Embiid, the man absolutely put on a show at times during these sims, because as we mentioned before, the 76ers did perform better than expected, and Embiid was a huge reason why. For example, one of the crazier moments happened in Simulation 24, a sim that in the conference finals between the 76ers and Celtics saw Joel Embiid have a 62-point, 16-rebound performance in a Game 7 win. Joel's 62 points in this game would be just 1 point shy of Michael Jordan's 63-point record against the Celtics in the 1986 playoffs, although in another one of these 100 simulations, LeBron James would actually break that record with 66 points in a Game 5 win in the first round of the playoffs against the Houston Rockets. During this game, LeBron would shoot 24 from 29 from the field, 10 from 12 from 3, and just overall had basically the best playoff performance of all time. Actually, scratch that, because there was one playoff performance in these simulations that was even more insane than this. Because in season 60, Luka would have a 63-point triple-double in game 1 of the NBA Finals. That would be a performance that I don't think anyone would ever top. And looking even further here, Luka may have had the best performances throughout these 100 sims. For a player who is just 20 years old to dominate like this is truly a remarkable feat. Now, we also tracked what player had the most points in a single game, regular season included, and that honor would be given to Stephen Curry. Because in season 78 against the Cavaliers, Curry had 72 points and 15 3-pointers, a number of 3-pointers that would of course break his teammate Klay Thompson's NBA record. In real life though, we all know Steph is capable of having a ridiculous game like this. However, saying this, we are now going to look at some of the more unique performances that happened throughout this sim, such as the time Bobby Portis dropped 49 points and 8 rebounds in season number 52. Also looking at this list, Bam had a ridiculous 27-point, 24-rebound, 10-block, and 5-assist night, while Cat grabbed 31 rebounds in season number 64. And finally, here are some shocking playoff runs that happened throughout the course of these 100 sims. Along with making the NBA Finals in season number 80, the Kings also made the Western Conference Finals in season number 52. So from the very few times that Sacramento did make the playoffs, they at least took full advantage. A few other interesting notes are that the Thunder, Magic, and Blazers all came pretty close to the finals at one point or another, something that in real life seems unlikely to happen, but then again, in real life, we don't play the same season 100 times. And there we have it, guys. Thank you for watching. And again, I do want to remind you, a new second channel video is live right now. It is what if the top 20 players in the NBA all suffered career-ending injuries. That video was absolutely crazy, and I'm bringing the second channel back big time. I'm going to be posting on there all the time, so make sure to go show that video some love. Make sure to go subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As for this channel, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting. You're awesome. We all know it. And as always, have an awesome day, guys, and cue that music. By the way, if you're still here while the music is cued, here are 2 videos I think you are going to love watching. All you have to do is just click on either one of them on the screen right here. And other than that, guys, again, have a great day and peace.